I was never supposed to be seen. Not by the lights, not by the crowd, not even by the talent scout seated in the front row sipping overpriced champagne like he owned the air. My name is, well, used to be Colby Harris, assistant stagehand for the traveling musical A Song of Seven Faces. My job was to adjust props, haul lighting rigs, and, if lucky, fetch coffee without spilling it on any egos. Backstage, I was a ghost. No one remembered my name unless I was in the way. No one saw my scribbled compositions or my costume designs tucked into the crevices of my tool cart. Not even Marla Fontaine, our leading lady and Broadway's darling, who once accidentally thanked a coat rack thinking it was me. But I didn't mind. Not entirely. Because I had a secret. A delicate, defiant, burning secret that kept me going even when I wanted to quit. I didn't want to be part of the show. I wanted to be the show. It all changed one night in Savannah. When our makeup artist got sick, the assistant costume designer walked out over creative differences, and Marla had a meltdown in the dressing room after realizing her favorite perfume was discontinued. The director was losing her mind. Everyone was panicking. We had a packed house waiting for curtain, and no one to do Marla's final transformation scene, the one with the silk gown, feathered mask, and 6-inch rhinestone heels that had to glide down the grand staircase while lip-syncing a falsetto finale. In the chaos, someone, probably joking, shouted, "Just throw Colby in there. At least they won't complain." Laughter erupted. But the director paused. Eyes narrowed. And in that silence, something inside me whispered, "Say yes." 10 minutes later, I was in full makeup, corset pulled tight, wig clipped, heels trembling. They thought it would be a joke, some rushed disaster to stall the audience, while Marla collected herself. But as the music swelled and the stage lights hit me, something unexplainable took over. I didn't just play the part. I became her. The costume? Perfect fit. The walk? Balanced on instinct. The voice? Lip sync flawless, even better than Marla on her best night. The crowd went wild. They didn't see a backup. They saw a star. When I exited stage left, there was silence backstage. Gaping mouths. One of the dancers actually dropped her prop fan. Even the director, cold and ruthless as ever, whispered, "Who the hell are you?" For the first time, I smiled and meant it. "I'm Colby," I replied. The name spilled out as naturally as breath. It wasn't planned. But it was right. Marla never came back for Act 2. Rumor had it she checked out of her hotel that night, flew back to New York, and swore off theater until the world deserved her again. But the next morning, the review in the Savannah Times didn't mention her once. The headline read, "Mystery Woman Dazzles Audience. A Star is Born Backstage." And that was just the beginning. The curtain had barely fallen when the theater's backstage erupted into chaos. Stagehands, dancers, and even tech crew I didn't know by name were circling around me like I had just landed from Mars. Compliments fired from every direction, some sincere, others shocked into sarcasm. "Colby, where have you been hiding? You seriously pulled off that walk in those heels?" "Marla who?" The director, Alessia Brighton, stormed through the crowd like a queen through court. Her face was unreadable until she stopped in front of me and nodded. "One more performance," she said. "Just until we figure out what's going on with Marla." I nodded too, but my heart was already pounding with something unfamiliar and terrifying. Hope. The next few shows blurred together like a dream on fast forward. Every time I stepped into the role, swan white gown, smoky eyes, glittering gloves, I felt more like me than I ever had as Colby. I studied old footage of Marla, but I never copied her. I brought something different. Softer in some ways, sharper in others. I made the character, Lady Aurelia, my own. And the audiences noticed. After our 4th sold-out night in Savannah, we were invited to perform at a regional gala in Atlanta. Not just any gala, the one attended by agents, press, and the board of the National Performing Arts Association. A career launcher. A dream factory. A place where masks didn't just hide your identity, they gave you a new one. But with attention came questions. The press wanted interviews. The fans wanted names. The gala organizers needed a bio, a headshot, a publicist. You've got 24 hours, Alessia said, handing me a clipboard with the intake form. Either commit to the role, or I'll hire someone who will. I stared at the form. At the space labeled. Performer name. Underscore 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 underscore. I swallowed hard. I hadn't told anyone, not officially, that I wasn't just wearing a costume. That this wasn't a one-time performance. That I was finally, quietly, becoming myself. But writing it down, making it public. I hesitated until a voice in my head whispered again. Say yes. I picked up the pen and wrote, Colby Lark. Of course, not everyone celebrated my transformation. There was Tanner, Marla's former choreographer and self-proclaimed theater snob, who whispered behind my back and smirked when he thought I couldn't see. There was Bridget, a jealous swing performer, who insisted I was only experimenting and called me he in front of the crew, always loud enough to cause a scene. And there was one more surprise. Marla Fontaine herself. She returned. And she wasn't happy. She showed up the night before the Atlanta Gala. Perfect hair. Perfect nails. Perfect vengeance. You really thought you could replace me? She spat, standing inches from my face, her voice dripping with disdain. I built the show. You abandoned the show, Alessia replied coolly, stepping between us. And Colby saved it. You're making a joke of the industry, Marla snarled, glaring at me. This man in a dress. I don't remember lunging. But I do remember stopping. Because I didn't need to defend myself. The dancers had circled around me. One of them, Rosa, the fiery flamenco understudy, stepped forward and said calmly, She's not a man in a dress. She's the best thing to happen to this stage in years. I blinked. She had said she. Marla stormed out. Again. But this time, no one followed her. I went back to my dressing room. Alone. Breathing heavily. Tears rising, but not falling. I stared at the mirror. The girl in the reflection wasn't pretending. She was real. She was me. The next night, at the Atlanta Gala, the curtains parted to thunderous applause before I had even opened my mouth. And somewhere in the audience, a pair of eyes, sharp, calculating, watched me with interest. Later, I'd learned that his name was Desmond Vale. A powerful New York producer who never smiled unless he saw something profitable. But that night, he was smiling. And I had no idea yet what it would cost me. The after-party was held in the ballroom of the Chateau Meridian, an over-the-top 5-star hotel where even the hors d'oeuvres had gold flakes and the bartenders wore tuxedos tighter than corsets. I stood near the velvet-draped balcony, sipping sparkling water in my stage gown, half afraid someone would tap me on the shoulder and say, All right, joke's over, get back to lifting set pieces. But no one did. Instead, they whispered. They watched. They recognized me. Miss Lark, a smooth voice cut through the murmur. You were spellbinding. I turned. There he was. Desmond Vale. Gray suit. Crimson tie. Cold blue eyes that sparkled only when he saw opportunity. I'm Desmond, he said, offering a hand too practiced, too polished. And I think you're going to be very famous. I was caught off guard. My heart fluttered, part nerves, part curiosity, part fear. Famous. I echoed, dumbly. He chuckled, leaning in. You've done the impossible. You stole the show from Marla Fontaine and made her irrelevant. That's not just talent. That's marketable. He handed me a card, Vale Media Group. Gold embossed, heavy like a key to a locked door. I have a show, he said. A new series. Streaming. Modern, edgy, bold. Need someone like you. Not just a performer, a story. My mouth went dry. I wanted to scream yes. But something in his smile felt rehearsed. Dangerous. I'll think about it, I said, pocketing the card. Back in my hotel room, I paced like a trapped animal. Desmond's offer echoed in my head. A series. A national platform. A chance to step fully, publicly, proudly into the world as Colby. But with every dream comes a devil in disguise. I pulled out my laptop and searched Desmond Vale. The results were mixed. Lavish premieres. Viral campaigns. starlets in glittering gowns. And buried beneath it all, whispers of exploitation. Contracts with fine print no one noticed until it was too late. A young drag queen sued him over image rights. Another actress claimed she was forced into an on-screen persona that made her miserable. It didn't confirm my fears. But it didn't kill them either. The next day, I brought the card to Alessia. She read it. Her face hardened. "Don't sign anything," she said flatly. "But I mean it, Colby. Desmond doesn't create stars. He uses them. And when they've served their purpose, he throws them away." I swallowed hard. But what if this is my only shot? She looked at me long and quiet, then said something I'll never forget. "If he's the only one knocking, it just means you haven't opened the right doors yet." Despite Alessia's warning, I met with Desmond that evening. Not to sign. Just to talk. Or so I told myself. We met at a rooftop lounge overlooking downtown. He ordered something expensive and offered me a contract with the words "Talent First" stamped across the top. He called it the Spotlight Series. "You'll be the face of it," he said, leaning closer. "Your story, your truth, your transition televised, will inspire millions." I hesitated. "And the character?" I asked. He smiled. "Lady Aurelia, but edgier. Younger. More rebellious. She'll be wild. Sexy. A little unpredictable. That's what sells now." Something cold sank into my stomach. "I'm not a gimmick," I said carefully. Desmond waved a hand, almost bored. "Of course not. But Colby, darling, you have to give the audience what they expect. And they expect transformation, don't they?" There it was. The catch. I wasn't a person to him. I was a plotline. I left without signing. My hands trembled the entire walk back. Later that night, a courier knocked on my hotel door with a gift bag, a diamond necklace, a bottle of champagne, and a note. "You'll say yes eventually." They always do. D. I stared at it, then dropped it all in the trash. The next morning, Desmond's media machine launched a headline before I could respond. "Colby Lark to star in new streaming drama. Sources say contract is already signed." I hadn't signed anything. But now the world thought I had. The theater phones exploded. My inbox flooded. Fan pages cheered. Alessia was furious. But I was livid. This wasn't just manipulation. It was a trap. I had a decision to make. Let Desmond control my narrative. Or write one of my own. But first, I'd need to take the stage one last time. Not as a character, but as the real me. The fake headline had spread like wildfire. By noon, Backstage Weekly had already published a full-length piece with phrases like "modern-day Cinderella" and "gender iconography for the streaming age." All based on lies. Lies Desmond had planted. I hadn't signed a single thing. But in the court of public opinion, Colby Lark was already sold. Alessia cornered me backstage after our Savannah matinee, her arms crossed, her eyes blazing. "Tell me you didn't make a deal." I didn't. I protested. "He forged the story. He's trying to corner me into accepting." She narrowed her eyes. "Then why haven't you gone public with the truth?" I hesitated. That was the problem. I hadn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because part of me still wanted it, the series, the spotlight, the reach. Even if it was poison wrapped in velvet. I sat alone in my dressing room that night. The mirror before me showed the same face the audience had fallen in love with. Flawless makeup, a starlet's smile. But behind it, my real face, the one I hadn't shown the world, was tired. Angry. Ready. I opened my phone and hit record. No rehearsals. No filters. Just me. "Hi. My name is Colby Lark. And I need to set the record straight." I explained everything. The night Marla walked out. The performances. The way I discovered myself under the stage lights. And finally, Desmond Vale, his offer, his manipulation, his fake press. He doesn't own me. He doesn't own my story. And if being visible means I have to be someone else's fantasy of what a trans woman should be, I'd rather disappear from the stage forever. I uploaded it to my private account. Then hit public. No PR team. No media filter. Just truth. It spread like gasoline on open flame. By morning, the post had over 800,000 views. Actresses, activists, and even former Desmond clients began reposting and commenting. Powerful. Been there. You said what so many of us couldn't. Desmond's empire is shaking. Let it burn. Even Harper Sinclair, a major Broadway name I'd grown up idolizing, posted it with, "Colby Lark is the future of theater. And Desmond Vale can choke." Desmond, of course, responded. A cold, soulless email signed by a lawyer. "Your public statements constitute defamation and misrepresentation of business arrangements. Cease and desist within 48 hours or face legal consequences." Alessia read it and laughed. "Oh, sweetheart. If he had a real case, you'd already be in court." Then, almost proudly, you broke his script. And just when I thought I'd reclaimed my story, the next twist arrived in the form of a glittering envelope placed gently on my dressing table. No postmark. No name. Just gold lettering that read, "The Lyric Awards nominee announcement. Private invitation only." Inside was a card listing 5 names for Best Breakthrough Performance in Live Theater. Mine was the last one. Colby Lark, A Song of Seven Faces. I dropped the envelope. My breath caught in my throat. "Me?" I whispered. This wasn't Desmond. This wasn't a bribe. This was real. That night, during the final Savannah performance, I stepped onto stage like I never had before. The character was gone. The mask was gone. But the magic? It was still there. After the curtain call, Alessia found me outside the stage door, where fans had gathered with signs and flowers. "You ready for New York?" she asked, handing me a printed itinerary. I blinked. "What?" She smirked. "Lyric Awards are in 2 weeks. You didn't think I'd let you go alone, did you? But what if this is it? What if it all ends after this?" She pulled me into a hug. "Colby, this isn't the end. This is just the close of Act 1. New York was colder than I remembered. Or maybe I was just feeling exposed. It had only been a few weeks since the firestorm, Desmond's false claims, my video response, the sudden rise to fame I hadn't asked for, but somehow, I was now standing in front of the Lyric Theater, home of the most prestigious awards in live performance. All around me were banners, photographers, screaming fans. And in the middle of it all, me, wearing a custom-made silver gown designed by Rosa herself, hand-stitched with crystals that shimmered like stardust. My hair was pinned up in a soft wave, a vintage microphone-shaped clutch in my hand. It was everything I had once only dared to dream of. But inside, I was trembling. "Colby, over here. Who are you wearing? Did you ever sign with Vale? Are the rumors true? Netflix series next?" "Smile, Colby. Give us the star look." I barely made it down the carpet. Alessia stayed close, whispering encouragement, but even her voice was lost in the noise. I didn't want to be a symbol anymore. Or a scandal. Or a statement. I just wanted to be me. And for that to be enough. Inside the theater, I found my seat between 2 icons I had no business sitting near, Jacqueline Moss, who'd won 4 Lyric Awards herself, and Devon Travers, whose play had just closed after a historic 2-year run on Broadway. Both smiled at me. Both knew who I was. I nearly cried. The show began with glitz and glamour, monologues and performances, standing ovations and polite claps. My category, Best Breakthrough Performance, was 3rd from the end. Plenty of time for nerves. Then I heard a name. Desmond Vale. I turned sharply. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not tonight. Not after everything. But there he was, strolling down the aisle like he belonged, settling into a reserved seat across from me. He smirked when our eyes met, then gave a small, mocking wave. He wanted me to see him. He wanted to rattle me. But he had no idea what was coming. The lights dimmed. The presenters stepped onto the stage.